Hey amazing moms, it's Nicole and I'm back with week 2 of the complete home organization challenge in my home. This week I'm working on the pantry, and here's the before of my pantry, and it's okay. I actually completely reorganized it not too long ago and got all matching canisters and containers from the Dollar Tree, as well as a variety of other bins and baskets that I found off of Amazon, or items that I actually just jars that I've used, like tomato sauce jars or mason jars, and I collected them and I used them to store all of my dry goods in my pantry. And it's been working very well for us thus far, but lately it's gotten a little crazy in the top shelf. I don't know if you saw it there, where my baking items are a little out of control. But overall, I kind of like the system. Some things need to be purged a little bit and tidied up a bit, and I also need to have a designated space for those baking goods, like the chocolate chips and the shredded coconut and my dried fruits that I like to eat now for snacking. I just need a designated spot for my healthy snacks and for my baking goods. So that's the main area that I wanted to tackle this week in my pantry. So the first thing I did was remove everything from my pantry and put it out on my table. Every single thing, so that I can clean the space out and then do an assessment of what I really need to get rid of as well. So here's everything laid out on my table, and pretty much my kids were in shock when they came home from school, because usually they do their homework at the kitchen table, and it was a hot mess when they got home. So here it is before I actually cleaned it up. I have the basic standard wire shelving, and it started to get kind of gunky, as you can see here. So I went in and I first swept everything out that was on the ground, and then I made a little solution of my favorite standard solution for cleaning my kitchen: hot water, white distilled vinegar, and Mrs. Meyer's dish soap in the basil fragrance. I got a little scrub brush and a microfiber cloth, and I went to work on those wire shelves. They're very tricky to clean, so the sponge and the brush came in really handy. I really had to scrub, use lots of elbow grease. There was spilled stuff on there, just caked on grease from over time, from items that might have spilled, that I really had to get in there and really scrub it out. So this took me a good amount of time. Even though it's only about 5 shelves, it took a lot of time for me to get it clean to my liking. So then I went in with these, my favorite magic erasers from the Dollar Tree, 3 for $1, and I went and I tackled the walls on the inside because they were looking really grimy. They had lots of scuff marks on them. So just a little bit of water and those magic erasers do the trick. So here are my tools that I absolutely love when I'm organizing anything: my Dymo label maker, and these chalkboard labels are from Amazon.com, and they even come with their own chalkboard marker. They're erasable with just water. They're really large. I like them. You get about 72 of them for $8.99, I believe. The best bargain out there. My next favorite thing are these glass jars that I picked up from the Dollar Tree, which are going to be storing my little baking goods that I really need to reorganize, $1 each. Then I also got these Inner Design clear containers. I got 3 of them, but I ended up only using 2 of them in the pantry. They're very sturdy and they're see-through, which is very convenient. So what I did was I just cleaned out the jars that were empty and the brand new jars, took the labels off the bottom, and let them air dry overnight, because you really want to make sure your jars are really dry when you're going to store dried goods in them. So the next day I went ahead and just filled them up with the things that I intended to fill them up with, such as the shredded coconut, or powdered sugar, or chocolate chips, or whatever it is that I needed to put my baking supplies or baking ingredients in. And I feel like these canisters are the perfect size for that. Not too large and not too small. Usually you only need a couple of cups of those kinds of things in your recipes anyway. So I just went ahead and filled them all up. It was a little bit messy, but I got them done. Afterwards, I went ahead and I wrote out all the labels that I need, and this is an important step. I think that when you're going to label containers, you go ahead and write on the labels first when you're first putting them on the jars, because your handwriting is just going to be a lot better if you're just writing on the actual label and then peeling the label and sticking them on the jars like so. So that way your handwriting is consistent versus actually just trying to write on the label once you put it on the jar. So here I am just labeling all my cute little Dollar Tree jars with the labels, and they turned out so adorable. I absolutely love how they are. I love how big the labels are because I like that look. If you have jars with stainless steel lids, you probably notice that over time they look tarnished and maybe even a little bit rusty. Just use some distilled white vinegar and scrub them down really good. Just saturate the lid, let it sit for a little bit, and then go back over it with a sponge that has an abrasive side, and it will take those little rust marks and scuffs right off of the stainless steel. Before placing everything back into the pantry, I went ahead and used a little bit of Mrs. Meyer's multi-surface spray to clean down the outside of all of my jars and containers because, you know, from touching them all the time, they get a little bit grimy on the outside, just so that when I put back in everything, everything look nice and neat and clean and spotless. And I also took the time to rewrite any of the labels that might have been faded and refilled any jars that needed to be refilled as well. For dry goods that have specific cooking instructions, I like to cut out the cooking instructions and make sure I keep it on the inside of the jar so that I can see it through the back of the jar. For dry goods that have fast approaching expiration dates, I had my kids print out the date of expiration on my Dymo label maker, and they printed out those labels and attached them to the front of the containers. I also took out the bread bin and the refills bin, and I scrubbed them out very well and dried them out before placing them back in the pantry. So now I'm putting everything back into the pantry, starting from the top to the bottom, and everything's cleaned, well labeled, and I'm ready to put everything back together. Here's a finished product. Everything has a place, no more bags randomly floating about and crammed at the top. All my baking ingredients have a home. My dried fruits have a home with my healthy snacks there. All the containers are relabeled, wiped down. Everything looks nice and brand new and shiny. So let's look at it from the top to bottom. And I even have a little bit of room to grow. As you can see, that bottom shelf has some empty spaces. So that's always a plus. You never want to overpack any space that you have. So here is the top. shelf a lot more organized than it was before. These jars are going to come in really handy when it's time for me to bake, instead of me grabbing random bags of items. And in this shelf, I actually have a new little area location where I'm storing all of my dried fruit and my granola bars to encourage my husband and I to snack healthy. On the third jar, I've relabeled items, and like I said, I use my Dymo labeler to put expiration dates on certain canisters. I have my bread box and some more dried goods and dried beans as well. I love the accessibility of these boxes because they slide out like drawers, and we're able to fill everything that we need, or fit everything we need in there. Here is my refills bin that has any overflow. If we filled a jar and there's excess baking mix or sugar, we keep that stored in there. And then a few extra odds and ends that we have in small amounts left over go on the side of that as well. In the very bottom, we have my reusable grocery bags, as well as disposable grocery bags, as well as any extra cleanser that we have that's too bulky to store anywhere else. So here is the after, and I absolutely love it from top to bottom. I only spent about $20 for the items that I did use to update or upgrade my pantry. And it was a really simple process. So guys, thanks for tuning in for week 2 of my 14-week complete home organization series that I'm doing based on Tony Hammersley's The Complete Home Organization Challenge. Definitely check out her blog or pick up the book that gives you step-by-step tips on how to achieve a completely organized home in 14 weeks. I will see you next week. We will be tackling the dining room from one amazing mother to another. Bye.